All right, folks, welcome to our first of many webinars that I am calling XenTegra Bits and Bytes, where we focus on key industry topics and industry trends, etc. We try not to focus on the products, but rather a topic or a trend that's happening within the industry. And today we have two very great vendors in the end user computing space, Citrix and Nutanix, and we're going to talk about is your end user compute ready in this whole, 2021 remote work conundrum that we're in? And so my name is Pete Downing. I'm the CMTO of Zentegra and host of today's webinar. And I got a lot of great guests on the phone, so many that I couldn't fit them all on the slide. So we're gonna have a little fun and introduce everybody really quickly. So first on the Zentegra side, I'd like to introduce two guys, Matt and Matt, if you want to give yourself a quick intro. And first off, this was your idea, so thanks for bringing it to the table.
Yeah, thanks. I'm the guy that spoke unknowingly early, guys. Sorry. So I'm Matt Kidder. I'm account exec with Zentegra. I've been in the IT consulting industry as a technologist for 20 plus years in the Citrix space is my specialization, and I'm super excited for everybody to kind of learn what I already know about Citrix and Nutanix together. So thanks for attending.
Cool. And Mr. Harvey Green, if you can give yourself a quick intro. And wait, it's Harvey Green the third, right?
That is true. Yes. So I'm Harvey Green the third, as Pete alluded to, one of the sales engineers and architects here at Zentegra. Been with Zentegra for a little over 4 years and been in the EUC space for somewhere between 15 and 20, long enough to make me feel old. So as Matt alluded to, we'll have lots of topics and things to talk about today about Citrix and Nutanix together and why it's a great move for you.
Awesome. All right. So next up, we got a few folks from Nutanix. Gary, if you want to give yourself a quick introduction.
Thanks, Pete. Gary Andrus. I'm the commercial account manager based out of Michigan. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks for helping pull this together as well. And then on the Citrix side, we got two awesome guests who've been on our webinars before. So first, I'll introduce Todd Smith. So Todd, if you want to give yourself a quick intro.
Sure, Pete. Hey, my name is Todd Smith the first. Joining today from Boston. Been with Citrix now for actually in February, it'll be 15 years. Doing a variety of different things, but my current role is a sales engineering manager, responsible for all of the commercial business between basically Maine all the way over to Illinois. So glad to be invited to be on this, Pete.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for taking time again. And Andy, if you want to give yourself a quick intro.
Yeah, thanks for having me back, Pete. Andy Morris, corporate account manager for Citrix. Been here for about a year and a half, covering Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio.
Awesome. All right, and then finally, we got a special guest today, and we're gonna cover a cool customer use case later in the segment. Mr. Will Houston, if you want to give yourself a quick intro, and thanks for joining us today.
Certainly, thank you guys for having me. My name is Will Houston. I work for a small independent hospital in Bar Harbor, Maine. I have about 20 years of healthcare experience, though my age does not show it. And we've had some awesome opportunities to work with all three of the partners.
Awesome, and thanks for joining us again. And then behind the scenes, we got Megan Hansen, who helps out with making sure you guys get your Uber Eats. Again, be nice to her. She makes sure that everybody is who they say they are, and we will get those Uber Eats out within the next day to 24 hours max. So bear with us. We've had a lot of events this week. All right, so we're going to jump in, and first off, we want to encourage question and answer. So if you guys ask questions, that will force the panel to have a conversation. So if you have a burning question, please ask it. One of the other cool features in the Zoom functionality is I can allow all questions to be leveled up, and attendees can also comment. So if you see a question, you want to ride on top of that question, please do. And if you can also ask anonymous questions. You don't necessarily have to put your name out if you don't want your name to be associated with the question. So don't hesitate to ask questions. And we definitely encourage it. Now, today's agenda is going to be interesting. We're going to break it into a bunch of segments. The first segment is going to be focused on just business continuity and kind of the state of it. And then we're going to have a conversation around how both companies are enabling business continuity. Then we're going to talk about VDI and where, Citrix and Nutanix fit together in the value of the product. And again, we won't get too deep into this. So if you want to get deeper into that, what I recommend is checking out Harvey's session tomorrow at 10 o'clock. He's doing a hands-on session focused just on Nutanix with hands-on labs. And you definitely want to check that out. And I'll give you a link in a second. Then we'll talk about HCI 2.0 and what exactly that is. And then finally, we'll end cap with the ROI and TCO conversation and the value that both products together bring to the enterprise. And we'll pull in Mr. Will Houston to comment about that further and really share his experience. I've had the honor and privilege to know Will for about 2 years now as a partner, and Jeremy, who's on the call as well. We are honored to have your business, Will. So thank you. So check out webinars.zentegra.com. We have a great lineup coming up. So we're going to continue to grow this. I actually have a cool guest coming up. We're going to focus on micro apps in Podio, believe it or not, with the Citrix team. So we got a topic coming up on that. And Andy says he has some other cool topics. So I'm all ears, Andy, when you want to bring topics to me. Events.zentegra.com. Check out our events coming up. We have a lot of great events. Today, I got an awesome event later today. It's called Nuts, Bolts, and Beers. I'm going to be highlighting an awesome new update from Igil. And you kind of see it right here. I got the Igil Raspberry Pi device sitting here. I'm going to show that off later today, and you can bring a drink of your choice. Podcast.zentegra.com. We actually just updated this page. So if you check it out, we got a lot of great podcasts focused on pretty much every vendor on this call. So pretty cool. And shout out to Andy Whiteside for doing those. And then, yes, we are giving away Uber Eats. Please be patient. We're getting those out as soon as possible. And, Megan does a great job at getting those out. And we changed it a little bit this year, just as a FYI. We give you 30 days to spend it so you can bundle all the Uber Eats credits together and have a nice big Uber Eats credit by the end of the month. So, and then, yes, we are doing giveaways. We're going to give away, your choice of an iPhone or Samsung Galaxy. And then we got some other cool swag that we'll be giving out over the next weeks into February. And then I'll talk about this later, but bronco.zentegra.com, check that out. There's a lot of ways you can get in that drawing. And if we have time, I'll uncap and share the ways you can get into that drawing. Let's have some fun. And I'm going to get some audience members involved, and we're going to allow you guys to do some polling here. So the first polls are just basic stuff, getting you guys warmed up. Hey, this is my first XenTegra event /workshop /webinar. And I am and I tried to align it to, generally what you are. And again, no user data is shared on the screen. So you can't see who's answering. This is all anonymous. So, help us out, give us a couple answers, and it just helps us drive the conversation a little. So all answers are coming in. Someone said, why is the Pi still in the box? Because, I'm going to do it from scratch today. I didn't want people thinking I staged the demo. I live on the edge. I'm going to plug it in and get it up and running. I actually talked to Jeff Kahlberg, David, last night, and he gave me some pointers. And Harvey joked around. Yeah, comment away, guys. And Q&A is definitely recommended. So we have a couple more seconds. Last call for clicks going once, twice, and last call. All right. So we got a lot of new folks on today's event. So welcome. Again, we do a lot of these different events. So check out events.zentegra.com. Anybody returning, welcome back. You probably recognize some of the faces on today's session. And we got a lot of great wide range of folks on the phone from day to day to decision makers. So we're going to feed everybody with good information today. So don't fret. All right. Next up, we're going to talk about kind of your Citrix information and what your Citrix makeup looks like. So, the first question is my enterprise currently uses an end user compute environment today, and pick your primary. So what is your primary product that you use? I know you could answer more than one potentially. Focus on the primary. Next is what hypervisor platform are you using? Hopefully everybody answers the number 2, but we'll see how the poll comes out. Next up is, are you using Citrix Workspace, right? And so, if you're doing it production end to end, awesome. If you're doing hybrid, meaning you have some on-premises assets and some cloud assets, and you're kind of in that middle ground, you're hybrid, then pick that option. if you own the license, but you're still 100% on premises and you haven't even checked your control plane and touched it yet, then pick that option. And then you're no, but considering it, or why should I move? So, and then finally, just a fun question. Citrix Cloud is, and I do this more for, educational purposes, because at the end of the day, it depends on, how you look at it, but it truly is a platform as a service and a control plane to help you manage your Citrix investment. All right, I'm gonna give a couple more seconds and say last call for clicks. So going once, going twice, and last call. All right, so a lot of good results here. This will help our panelists understand the makeup of our audience. So thank you to all Citrix customers and Nutanix customers, first off. And yeah, a lot of good data here. So we, as expected, ESXi is a always king of the hill when it comes to the hypervisor platform. And, if you're interested and you want to dig deeper into the Citrix Cloud and Citrix Workspace, I run a monthly workshop on going to Citrix Cloud and how to get there. And then finally, we got a lot of great Citrix customers in the room. So thank you. All right, final survey is going to be around industry type stuff. So let's focus on industry, and I'm going to launch the poll. And as you guys are looking through this, how's your Azure AD setup? So are you doing hybrid? Are you doing cloud? What infrastructure as a service platform are you looking at today? And so, focus on the compute. You might be doing, Hadoop, and you might be doing, Azure SQL. We're more focused on the infrastructure piece. So are you doing VM compute on, et cetera, in AWS, Azure, or Google? O365 or M365, what's your setup look like? Are you on-prem, hybrid, Exchange Online, so on and so forth? And then what does your remote work strategy look like? This plays very heavily into, business continuity and how it plays into the future of 2021. And then finally, what does your thin device strategy look like? Are you using thin devices? If so, which vendor? You could be using more than one, I get it, but pick your primary for now. And we'll give a couple more seconds and I'll check something really quick. Someone asked, how do we get a free XenTegra t-shirt? Well, there's a lot of different ways, but one, I'll say, if you are a customer, reach out to your either myself, you can ping me in LinkedIn, and I can hook you up, or if you reach out to your client executive, we can get you hooked up. And I also do other giveaways, so keep an eye out for those. And I have a lot of other cool t-shirts. I got Nutanix, I got Citrix, so keep an eye out for those. All right, last call for clicks, going once, twice, and last call. So, we can see the one I'm most interested in this round of polls is the remote work strategy. So we look at, we've seen kind of an interesting shift in 2020, and we're kind of moving into 2021. It seems like we're going to be stuck in this for a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how heavily remote work is going to play into the 2021 strategy. So a lot of great information here. We'll reference some of this as we go through the day today. So thank you for taking part in the polls. All right, so let's jump into today's topic. So first off, if you're not following Citrix, Nutanix, XenTegra, anybody on this call on social media, please do. A lot of great content out there being posted. And I would say, it's not information overload. It's actually some great, valuable content. All right, so let's talk about, the future and, and really what's been happening in 2021. And I'm going to pull the panel in a second. But the goal here is let's talk about what's happened. So in 2020, we went from a completely on-premises workforce, or hybrid, if you will, to almost having to work remotely entirely. And now we're slowly pivoting back, and hopefully we can get to some level of normalcy. But what that's forced us is to really look at, our business continuity strategy and being able to get to content wherever, whenever, whether it's your virtual desktop, it's SaaS apps, the combination of the both. And this slide is a great slide. I borrowed it from Citrix, and you look at kind of the life cycle of going to remote work. A lot of us were kind of stuck in the left side here, or kind of move into the middle. And now we've been forced to kind of go to the far right and really get to a remote work strategy and have the flexible work environment. And so Citrix is a great solution as far as, the the Citrix Workspace app, Citrix Workspace, and then underneath all the goodness that we all know that Citrix has done for years and years. Zen app, Zen desktop, so, old school MetaFrame folks in the room. We've been doing it a long time. The question is, how do we make it truly flexible? And that's where Citrix comes into play. But underneath is the architecture as well. And where does Nutanix fit into making, VDI, end user compute, truly flexible? And we'll talk about HCI 2.0 in a little bit. But Citrix ran a great survey. And what was interesting about this is if you look at all the top end type stuff, it's focused on security, using the cloud, analytics, and use, being able to see the data, redeploying existing IT infrastructure. So you look at all these top end things, it's all about business continuity and making your workforce truly remote. And so, that's where really Citrix Workspace fits in. I mean, yeah, Citrix and Nutanix together cover all these things in the stack, but under the covers, if we look at these top, 6, Citrix and Nutanix fit in very nicely to the strategy. So some fun stats, and there was a global survey of IT from Citrix, and then Citrix surveyed, I think, their workers, right, Todd and Andy. So and then there was a Gallup poll as well, and you can see some interesting stats here. 75% of IT leaders, expect different work arrangements now, and I mean, it's no secret now we're kind of stuck in this, right? And 64% of employees are not yet comfortable to go back to the office, and who knows if that will change, And then 59% would prefer working from home even when the office is open, because let's face it, it's a great perk. But I think surprisingly, and some of the panel can comment on this, is people are more productive because they're able to flex their day. And if anything, it made us all, workaholics, right? And then if we look at the cloud conversation, and this is where kind of Nutanix and Citrix are awesome as far as partners go, they are considering downsizing their IT infrastructure. So 62% of IT leaders said they're considering downsizing. 42% want to introduce some type of digital workspace platform. And then finally, 44% are looking at some type of public cloud, right? And so this is all plays into the business continuity conversation. So the question of the panel, and anybody can chime in to kick off the conversation, is how will Citrix and Nutanix continue to enable business continuity, and what are we gonna see as we go into 2021?
Hey, Pete, this is Todd. One of the things that's critical around business continuity, it's not a disaster recovery scenario where you have time to recover. This is a situation where everyone expects the business to be able to continue without any hesitation, without any gap in services or coverage or the ability for the employees to do their work and maintain a level of productivity. Critical thing here is probably the biggest, most critical aspect here is when people are in a business continuity perspective, they want to be able to work and do all of the activities that they could do if they were in the office, right? So they have to be able to print, they have to be able, if they use scanners, a lot of times telephony has to work as well. So customers need to be prepared for that, and they also need to realize that that's the expectation of a user in a business continuity perspective or business continuity event.
Yeah, I agree, Todd. So Gary, go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I think, Todd, what you're getting at too is the flexibility, right, of a platform, or how to shift that at a moment's notice if need be. Which at Nutanix, what we're striving to do is it's an operating system that's flexible across on-prem, cloud, but doesn't change the administrative or the maintenance side of it either. So it's flexible in nature to your end users, but it's consistent and standardized for the company, and in a lot of ways, predictable, right? Predictable for the unknown and predictable for flexible situations.
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think it really comes down to the flexibility and the speed at which people can convert. We're seeing situations, everything from businesses to education, where they're finding out at 2 o'clock in the afternoon that they're going to be working remote tomorrow because the building had to be shut down because an employee or a student showed up and had a positive test or was exposed. In that flexibility and the speed at which you have to be able to do that, it really doesn't fall into a lot of people's or a lot of customers' existing business continuity or disaster recovery plans. So you have to have a lot of the infrastructure and a lot of the systems set up in advance to be able to make that decision and make that transition very quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, and Todd,
yeah,
just if I can, I just wanted to add to that. So that's a great point, Todd. And then when people do go back to the office, sometimes they're adding to hoteling, et cetera, which is going to just add to the Citrix and Nutanix use case as well.
Agreed. All right. So, and Will, we're going to come back to you because I think you have a great answer for this, but let's save the best for last, right, buddy? All right. So let's jump into the next topic and talk about, why EUC and specifically why VDI and desktop as a service. So, and we all, Todd and I, we go way back, and a lot of us on this call go way back. But Todd, you remember Desktop Broker back in the day? And we were like sitting there going, man, and we were doing Ardents and PVS at the time. And then we started looking at this whole notion of, centralized management, putting everything in the data center. So security, and then BYOD became a big trend. And I think we're starting to see that more and more now with people working remotely, whether they're on a PC that's in their house or a laptop that they buy and they use. So, and the challenges are simple. We've seen these challenges. And, Harvey can attest to some of these because he's been implementing VDI and EUC for so long. But, how do we resolve poor user experience? How do we resolve, unpredictable scalability, right? Or how do we, speed up these projects? And so that's where Nutanix can fit in. And then how do we lower complexity and cost? And Citrix plus Nutanix, we'll cover that in a second. And so we look at HCI, but more importantly, HCI 2.0, and implementing Nutanix with Citrix and Citrix Cloud is going to enable a nice hybrid scenario with huge cost savings. And really, the biggest thing you're going to see is upside as far as scale, upside as far as security, faster delivery times, and best of all, better user experience. Because let's face it, if our users aren't happy, our projects aren't successful. And happy users means happy Will Houston, right? And so if we look at the HCI stack, there's a lot of great vendors that plug in, but at the end of the day, Nutanix has got the HCI stack with AOS, Prism, Flow. And by the way, we're doing a great Flow workshop in about a month. So check that out. But under the covers, we have AHV. And so, we jokingly say the VMware tax, right? If you're running VMware with Nutanix, I highly recommend you check out AHV and as an option, because it's not only going to be a great integrated experience, but it's also going to help you save some dollars and cents in the background. And then as far as Citrix plus Nutanix, we're going to cover that in a second. But really the goal here is simple, right? How do we simplify the deployment of VDI in general across not only the on-premises scenario, but across on-premises and a cloud scenario? And that's where Citrix and Nutanix go nicely hand in hand. So, the question to the panel here is, what is the biggest value, we all feel that Nutanix brings to Citrix, and then vice versa, what Citrix brings to Nutanix. So I'll open it up to the panel, and I'll stop a share so everybody can see our face. But anybody wants to kick off, feel free. I mean, Harvey, we haven't heard from you in a while. You got a good answer?
So I'll go with one that is overall performance, but I'll go for a different reason than what's normal. So with Nutanix, you're getting the ability to have that data locality, which means that you're actually running on bus speed to the drives and back, because the data is actually located on the same node that your processing is happening from. So, I like to talk people through that by saying that it doesn't matter how fast and how much extra equipment you decide to put on your network to make it faster. Nothing is going to be faster than running bus speed.
And Harvey, you have a great analogy for that, right?
I do. Jeremy laughs because all my analogies involve food, but we were talking to a customer that was in a high rise, and I talked to them about having a cafeteria at the bottom of their building, and we talked about no matter how much they do to try to go and get lunch faster down the street, police escort, Lamborghini waiting with a chauffeur driving. It doesn't matter what you do to make that trip faster. Nothing's going to be faster than going down to the basement and getting your food.
In that same building.
Yep.
Cool. So, Todd, I guess from your perspective, what do you like working with, about working with Nutanix?
So probably the biggest thing is, and I'll keep harping on the flexibility. And in this case, it really is about the flexibility of a hybrid model. Nutanix, because it is the same delivery mechanisms, you can have part of your infrastructure and part of your components running in the Nutanix cloud. You can have it running on-prem or any place without losing any of those performance requirements that are out there. The user experience is the same, if not better, by leveraging that flexibility of that hybrid motion.
Agreed. And then Gary, from your point of view as a Nutanix rep, what's your view, and why do you like plugging Citrix into Nutanix?
It makes use of a lot of the integration. That's it fits well in the ecosystem, but it's the being in a more open platform. They take a design first mentality like we do around keeping their platform open as well. So it's very symbiotic in a lot of ways and collaborative. So in essence, it is the perfect platform for VDI, that especially leveraging what's in AHV, that kind of takes it to the next level from the integration, which ultimately results in more secured platform across public cloud or on premise, but really a better overall user experience too.
Awesome. And then hey Matt, so you're a seller and you've been in this space a long time. You're a seller, but you're also pretty technical. What's kind of your favorite thing about Citrix plus Nutanix?
I'm going to go straight up end user experience, right? The combination of the two delivers that underlying performance along with the customizations needed to be able to deliver that out to whatever environment you need to. High latency, right? You can be a lot more flexible in that space with the Citrix side. So for me, I have always delivered, and I've got a lot of desktops underneath my belt, right, that I've delivered. On Nutanix has always delivered the best end user experience, and that's really what we're in the game for. So I'm going to stick with end user experience.
And so, Will, I'll pull you in here. So would you agree that end user experience is a big measure to the success of a project in IT?
Absolutely. I come from the medical field. The faster I can get results to my patients, the better off we are. One of the things for the business continuity that is phenomenal, I'm on an island. Mount Desert Island Hospital is actually on an island. My data center is on an island. For me to have a redundant solution, I have to have an MPLS. I have a single point of failure off of the island. For me, the cloud has been a welcome opportunity to continue to be able to provide business, regardless of what happens on our island.
Yeah. Cool. So as we can see, there's a lot of value here with Citrix and Nutanix working together. And there's another shift that's happening, and it's and I'll do an anecdote here. So let's see, 57% of you folks said, hey, I'm looking at, or I'm evaluating, and I'm looking at Azure, right? And so cloud is driving a whole new conversation around being truly agile, but also having full business continuity, and how do Citrix and Nutanix fit into this story, right? On the flip side, a lot of you also said, hey, I'm using 18% are hybrid on-prem with Office 365, 37% are Exchange Online, and then finally a good chunk in, I could do quick math here, but I'll say almost all the audience is working remote in some capacity. So business continuity is going to be pretty big as we evolve into 2021. So we can see cloud is truly resetting expectations. And someone actually made a great comment, a great anecdote here directly to the panel. And they said, I'm trying to get my comments up, but the chat came in, it said, and, let me know if I can use your name, the person that commented, but deploying a Citrix image on our VMware cluster running all flash SAN 40 gig connection takes about 15 to 20 minutes. Doing the same on Nutanix takes around 5 minutes using AHV. So great anecdote from the audience. And, it's not about single cloud anymore. And that's the value of Citrix Cloud plus Nutanix, is that they can truly plug into, any cloud and make your on-premises data center truly elastic and allow you to scale up and scale down based on demand, based on scenarios, et cetera. But also, a lot of us are still doing edge computing or private cloud, whatever you want to call it, right? And Nutanix fits very nicely in that story, as does Citrix, even if you're using Citrix Cloud. Remember, Citrix Cloud is a control plane. I jokingly say it's getting rid of all the stuff you don't want to manage anymore and letting Citrix do it. It's and you can focus on what's important, desktops and apps. And then finally, distributed cloud, right? So you might have a scenario where you're in oil and gas, or you're in shipping, or logistics, et cetera, and you have to distribute and bring your edge to something, right? And so there's a lot of different scenarios that play into the quote unquote cloud, right? And so the foundation is simple, and I'm going to build this slide out because I'm not a big fan of build slides in webinars, but it's all about simplicity, one-click operations, multi-cloud management, automating application deployments, virtual machine updates, et cetera. You name it. Cloud is simplifying how we manage, IT. And Nutanix and Citrix fit into this strategy very nicely. So, you look at the portfolio of Nutanix. Nutanix, yes, they're focused on end user compute, but don't stop there. That's my tip of the day is, look at Nutanix to do more, right? But at the end of the day, it's a darn good platform for end user compute and Citrix. So really quickly to the panel, we were debating this early on last week. I think it was on a sales call with our sales team, and in a nutshell, what is HCI 2.0? So Gary, since you work for Nutanix, I'll let you be the first one to comment here on how does Nutanix define HCI 2.0? And I think it was Stephen Kaplan who kind of coined this term, right?
Yeah, no pressure, right? Following in ROI dudes, how do we define something? So I'll just put it this way: HCI, it used to be this nomenclature, whatever it came out for hyperconverged infrastructure, right? And that was it's a single appliance. We're getting rid of the SAN. We're getting rid of the fiber channel switches. We're getting all rid of that, and it's all in a single box attached to top of rack switch. Nutanix was the pioneer in the industry, and there's a lot of other competition too that came out with some products as well. Now HCI 2.0 is really shifting it to hybrid cloud infrastructure. How well do you do hybrid cloud? And what we're seeing is you have the AWS is bringing Outpost on-prem. Azure's bringing Azure Stack, GCP is bringing their own. Each one has its own flavor, is what I'm getting at. But there's not really this in-between cloud. That's where Nutanix, being a next-gen type of platform, really where you're a management plane, a data plane, and services at the intersection, like we are Cloud DNA. So when we start saying, hey, let's run our OS in Azure, we're running in the same VNet. When we say we're running, in AWS on bare metal, we're not going through some network overlay or some managed service. For us, it is the same VPC. And then if you couple that with anything that you can run on-prem on our OS, it's the same OS, just now in public cloud. So the ease of use then is now we have a single OS. Importantly, we have a single UI across multiple clouds and how you want to manage them. And yeah, then if Steve Kaplan, I read his TCO on our product called Nutanix Clusters, and really it comes down to the things you don't necessarily think about, like, hey, what are we doing with micro waste and VM right sizing? Now we can do that in public cloud. Oversubscription, now we can do that in public cloud. More efficiency around storage. So really, we can drive down the cost of public cloud while ensuring business continuity across clouds, while not breaking IT management's back, operations back, by managing all these different environments with different tooling.
Nice. And Todd, let's kind of level set here. So, a lot of people forget that, yes, Citrix, has Citrix Cloud, And then if we dig it down even to CVAD service, so Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service, there's a great hybrid story here. Can you kind of highlight, what that story is for the audience?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that kind of make Citrix unique when we're coming into this this scenario, and that is, you can have this hybrid approach. You can have multiple different services running across different clouds, as an example, right? So if you're virtual apps and desktops, if you want to host them in one specific cloud vendor, that can work. If you need to run part of that environment in an on-prem solution, to keep your desktops close to your data, as an example, we see this one an awful lot with legacy systems that are out there. You can do that. We also have an analytics platform that can actually cross multiple hosting locations, whether it be on-prem or whether it be in multiple clouds there, as well as in the security platform also works across all of those platforms as well. So we have designed our products to work in a truly hybrid environment and deal with multiple clouds, or a hybrid multi-cloud environment.
Nice. And Harvey, I'll ask a leading question. So, does Nutanix work with Citrix Cloud? And
yes.
Yeah, and a lot of what the audience doesn't realize is Nutanix and Citrix work great hand in hand. And there's a installer you download and you install directly on your cloud connectors, which will allow you to manage your Nutanix investment from Citrix Cloud. So if you didn't know that, reach out. We can point you in the right direction and help you all out. But great investment. And so, one of my favorite things about CVAD service is the notion of hybrid and the notion of no lock-in. And so between, Nutanix and Citrix, you have choice. And that's really the big takeaway around the hybrid story to me. And that's what I love about the two companies working very tightly together.
Yeah,
all right, so
I agree with that too, Pete. I mean, so you've got Citrix customers who have already discovered and have been using for years the ability to have things be located in different places and be able to run multi-data centers from different places, still have the one management UI that they're using. Nutanix is doing that same thing for infrastructure and giving you the one UI to use, whether you're on-prem or in the cloud, and be able to have the flexibility to move between both. And a lot of people were taking advantage of that last year when, their user count went from this much to this much.
Yeah.
And, that happened in a way that there was no way that you could procure hardware fast enough. So what do? You expand to the cloud, and you do that with the same UI. You don't have to retrain your administrators. You don't have to, worry about, they don't know what they're doing. Everything's already there and they already know how to do it.
Yeah. And I love that story. So, all right, so let's end cap, and we're gonna have a little fun, and we're gonna bring some dollars and cents into the conversation now. And the value that by coupling Nutanix with end user compute, and you see a lot of stats here, but the reality here is when you're looking at any project, you really need to see what your return on investment is, and how long does it take to gain value from the products that you're implementing, right? And so the payback period on average is 7.5 months when you look at, Nutanix, but really we've all kind of harped on it here. User experience and user performance is key. And so you look at some of the improvements that Nutanix makes, everything from, how much faster can you deploy storage, to management costs, to downtime, right? And as Will alluded to, downtime is not an option sometimes, if ever, and especially in healthcare. So having that peace of mind that you have no downtime is key. Now, one of the things we focus on here is, reducing the overall OpEx, CapEx, et cetera, right? And if you look at, the ROI without Nutanix, you're going to see a significant savings, of investing in Nutanix infrastructure plus your management costs plus your productivity costs, right? And on average, you're seeing about 60% cost and reduction when you support workloads on Nutanix, including end user compute. But the upside is you're saving time as well. So you're not wasting meaningful time to maybe work on other key projects. Because let's face it, we all have a full plate, right? And if we can go and focus on the things that matter in IT, especially now, Nutanix can enable that. So again, I want to thank Will for taking time out of his day to join us today. And I'd like to kind of hear from Will on, what value did Nutanix bring to your Citrix environment, and what made you pick Nutanix to run alongside your Citrix investment?
Absolutely. So I am coming from a hyper-converged environment into a different hyper-converged environment. And I will be the first one to say that we noticed a huge bump in production. We have a number of electronic medical records that are stored within our on-premise environment. Therefore, I, in security, am responsible for protecting that. With our previous hyper-converged environment, we actually tapped out. We had over-provisioned, and that was really what brought us into Nutanix. And it's not a hardware solution. From my perspective in security, we bought Flow for microsegmentation. I am now able to identify my electronic medical records that have PHI, public health information, and I can segment them. You cannot get to that no matter what. We did go with files as well. So I remember sitting in March at a restaurant with a number of my friends, all in security in different verticals. And we were all trying to sit down and figure out how we were going to support telecommuting. Was it going to be through a VPN, a Cisco AnyConnect? Was it going to be through this or that? Fortunately for us, we already had that infrastructure going. So all I had to do is say, everybody's going to go through Citrix. And I sat down and had another beer as I watched everybody else in my party leave to go and make sure they had enough VPN connections. For us, the virtual desktop environment, I love patching. I just patched my iOS phone yesterday for that 0-day exploit. Well, everything in our environments have to be patched every single month. For me, one golden image, we're done. We can standardize our platforms. We can standardize all kinds of things in this virtual environment. For business continuity, for a hospital, us losing one patient is bad. If it takes 30 seconds for you to bring something up, or if a provider, aka a doctor, has to click 4 times or wait, we have lives that are honestly waiting for those clicks. And we have noticed, and again, I apologize, I'm on the security side. I can't give you cool statistics for the speed, but I can tell you my end users are smiling. And we're in a very, very stressful time. I'm sure every other vertical is too, but I set up 2 COVID tents so far this year. We have literally just started figuring out how are we going to vaccinate our community. These are the concerns that our hospital has. It's great to know that in the background, we have a solid foundation for us to move. If something goes awry in our hospital, we're up in the cloud. We're still operating, no pun intended. From us on the Citrix side, we are a platinum partner. We have it all. It's great. We are just now doing the cloud connectors. From our perspective, if I can offset some of the compute to the cloud, we're all over it. We have a very unique situation up here in Maine. I have 8,000 folks that come and visit me in the winter. You guys are more than welcome. But during the summer, we see about 4 million people. We have 90 cruise ships. I have to be able to support a workforce that might be 25 people in my med-surg, and then in the middle of the summer, it could be 50. So from a licensing perspective, a deployment perspective, it is significantly easier for us in this environment.
So, Will, you're a funny guy every time I hang out with you. So if I'm stuck in the elevator with you and I say, why Nutanix, what's your quick answer before I get off?
they are rocking it with the technology. They're cutting edge.
Yeah.
The previous company that we worked with, we bought into them when they were selling out, and it was a horrendous experience. It wasn't bad enough to keep us away from the hyperconverged because, man, it's cool. It's great technology. It's everything we need in one box. Not to get on the environmental standpoint, but we've cut our data center in half. We no longer have 50 or 75 servers pulling electricity, needing additional heat. We have had reduction across the board. When you talk about your ROI, the little things, you don't think about your power draw. You don't think about all of those things. When it comes to backups and things of that nature, I can get a lobster fisherman, but he's not going to know what he's doing. I do not have the ability to pull from, a Seattle type base of geniuses. So for us, the cloud has been ideal. I've never met anyone that has their doctorate in backups, but I feel very confident that you guys have got this, whereas I'm never going to find it. So for us, being able to leverage that is another big thing. I mean, you guys, Citrix and Nutanix have the best of the best. I'll ship you guys some lobster if you'll ship me some doctors and backup.
and then what's your favorite thing about kind of using Citrix day in and day out, or enabling Citrix, I should say?
The patching. I'm not going to lie. I love the standardization.
Yeah.
Everybody has the exact same desktop. You go to a computer, it's the same. No matter what department you're in, you log in, boom, there it is. That for us has been a big deal. Technology has not been standard. I'm in a very unique environment where I have 7 different electronic medical records. The last thing I need to do is manage anything else. Patient safety, making sure those EMRs are up, stable, and available. The CIA triad is where we live.
Nice. And then, I guess any kind of final thoughts, like on your experience so far. How are you guys chugging along, fully deployed now?
We just got our final machine off of the old environment into the new. It was relatively painless, and I'm talking we moved 6 EMRs, including their databases. So we had great support from both Zentegra and Nutanix along the way. We are going to have a very large VDI push that starts here in the next quarter. And we're excited.
Nice.
So
awesome. So that's Will and Will, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day for joining us. And it's always a pleasure
Pete,
to hear from you.
Anything for you. You know that.
So folks, we talked a lot about Citrix and Nutanix today. And again, I'm going to encourage it. If you have any questions at all, you got a great panelist of guests today. Todd, myself, Harvey, Matt, Will. We've done it all, and you can ask away on any of the technologies, Gary. But while we're waiting, if you aren't familiar with Zentegra, Andy, our founder and CEO, created the company under 2 premises. One, he wanted to do enablement like this, and that's how I met Will. And 2, he wanted to have true partnerships. So we really focus on 2 things. 1, enabling our customers in our community, and 2, being a good partner to Citrix and Nutanix. But the reality is I can resell you Citrix and Nutanix, but I'm also in the business of building a solution. So you're going to work with a guy like Harvey. Harvey's going to come in and build Nutanix and Citrix together, a solution, and not be worried about, licenses. He wants to make you successful. And I really live by this mantra, we enable IT so your end users can be successful. And I really feel this, if your users are walking down the hall and saying, I hate fill in the blank, then your project isn't successful. So you got to get your users to be your viral fans and say, we love vendor X, or we love the way Will implemented the desktop as a service offering. And so that's our goal. So one thing I want to highlight is, yes, if you go to bronco.zentegra.com, there's a couple things you can do to get in that drawing. And I'm going to cover one way. So you can go there, fill out, and ask for what's called a micro assessment. And this is just a very simple assessment that we come in, we take a look at your Citrix environment, and we give you some great recommendations. And yes, you can probably guess we're probably going to say, hey, you should probably look at HCI. And part of that, you're going to get a nice SWOT analysis. Again, this is free. It's about a 4-hour commit of your time, and it is a great way to get introduced to how XenTegra works. I jokingly call it the XenTegra interview. And Harvey, you've done a couple of these, and I'd say you enjoy doing them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it gives us the ability to actually prove our worth to the customer at no charge to them, just some time that we spend together, and actually go through, and at the end of it, the customer actually gets something that they can use to better their environment. And we've got the expertise to do it and put that in front of you. And we just know that it will just enable you and help you come back to be a better provider for your end users.
Nice. So, so as you kind of sit here today, one of the things I want to say is definitely, if you aren't a Nutanix customer, please set up a deeper demo with us. So we'll definitely be reaching out. If you want to dig deeper, we can enable that. All right. 2, if you're stuck and you don't know how to get to Citrix Cloud, we got to talk. If you're not on Citrix Cloud, you're behind. And it's not what it was 3 years ago. And there's a lot of myths out there about Citrix Cloud. So definitely talk to us about that. And then finally, anything else we talked about, we can demo, et cetera. And if you're stuck in the mud, so to speak, we have a great consulting team. We can come get you unstuck. And, Will, I think you enjoyed working with our team. And we really are passionate about not only, what we do, but end user compute, cloud, and anything tied to those technologies. Now, there was an interesting question, and I'd love to go down. I have a great panel here, and I would love to go down the path of trying to answer it. But I'll just say to the gentleman who asked it, he asked, yes, what are the selling points of Citrix over VMware? And Will, you're a customer, so I'd like to. Yeah,
the speed was there. It was amazing. We haven't seen our bill yet, or lack thereof, but the speed was there. That was probably the most amazing thing for me. I have been in a VM environment for very long. I have all the AXI shirts from way back. I think they're buying more than they're developing, in my humble opinion, as an end user. And that, I think, is where a lot of these other companies are taken off. I am a Metaframe user. That's how old I am. Citrix was on Metaframe. I remember it awfully. They couldn't get a printer to work to save my life. And now I can't get back to the 90-10 split that I want for Citrix deployment. And that is where I'm at. So for me, when you can deploy one golden image, when you can deploy to one machine versus 600. 2 weeks ago, we had to update an EMR. Every endpoint that had that EMR had to be remoted into and updated. The Citrix environment, well, that guy left early. So
nice. So another question came in. Can I enter the Bronco campaign more than once? Yes, but you obviously have to do different actions when you enter, so we don't restrict number of logons. All right. So first off, I want to thank my panel today for taking time out of their days. I know you guys are all busy, and I just want to give an opportunity for any final thoughts. So, Gary, you've been quiet. I'll start with you, buddy. Any final thoughts from you? Any things you want to leave the audience with today?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of it today. It speaks to the flexibility of the platform, the two together. So, if you're in the Detroit or Michigan market, reach out to me. If not, reach out to me or Pete, and we can put you in touch with who your Nutanix reps are. But it's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Hey, Todd, I'll toss it over to you. Any final thoughts for the audience?
So a couple of things, just to, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to anyone at XenTegra or Citrix for any information you're looking for. Can't thank XenTegra for all of their partnerships over the past. I feel like I went from being a peer with Andy, the founder and CEO, to now being one of our trusted partners as XenTegra. I also want to thank Nutanix. They derive an awful lot of interest and partnerships with customers. We are all about working with customers to make their users happy and their administrators happy. So I appreciate that. And one final thing, I've been keeping track of the number of times Pete said y'all, and I got 7 times during this. And for a kid from Boston to say y'all and say it correctly, pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
We're rubbing off on him.
Yeah. Harvey, since you have the floor, any final thoughts?
I would just say I want to make sure that everybody knows that these conversations definitely can get a lot more detailed. We want to speak with you where you are and actually go through what you have and how these things can help you. These are very general sessions that we're having now. We've got Will on to make sure that we can actually talk to you guys about what customers are seeing when they go through this, but we want to have these conversations with you. We want to get you past just listening in on something like this today and actually talking about specifically how it can benefit you. So definitely reach out to us, and we are ready and prepared to have those conversations with you.
Can I dovetail that?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Yesterday, my best meeting was with XenTegra and Nutanix. We did a quick review of a proposal that took about 15 seconds. And for the remaining of the conversation, it was very casual. It was very fun. They understand where we're going. They're helping my organization get there, and they're facilitating these relationships. Not only are these relationships business, but in the current environment, that was my best conversation yesterday. You guys made a good day. Pete and I barely know each other, but yet get along great. This is really the type of relationship for our organization that has been fantastic. I have sat down with the Zentegra CEO and had lunch, and every quarter we've been having conversations. This is the type of vendor relationship that a small organization of my size needs, and it's been great.
Nice. And Will, we sincerely appreciate your business and your time that you took today. And Todd, just a little shout out to you. Brady Pond, Maine was the question mark, and I'm guessing the answer is yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So with that, Matt and Jeremy, any final thoughts? I don't want to leave you guys out.
No, I just wanted to thank Will. Thank you for his partnership. I know he says he's small, but they have about 800, 900 total users over there at the hospital. I guess the only thing we didn't really touch upon is the scalability, which is big with Nutanix and Citrix as well, and never having to do another hardware refresh, just adding a node right on top of that. So it makes everyone's life easier. So thanks again, Will, and we'll talk soon.
Always a pleasure, guys.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to say thanks, Matt, for bringing this awesome topic to the table. And I'm going to say join us on our next session in 2 weeks. We're doing these every 2 weeks. And I look forward to seeing you all. And as I always say, see you guys on the flip side. And thanks for taking time out of your days to join us.